Hi everyone, Happy New Year. I hope you're having a great start to the year. I've been meaning to do this video for a really long time. This was actually an idea that my brother had insisted that I do. So here it is. I hope that you're happy to finally see this video out, Pierre. So this is my traveler's journal. I think I've had this journal for around 9 years now. As you can see, it has a lot of patina, scratches. There's actually some really beautiful scratches down here. I don't even know how that happened. I've been traveling with this journal since forever. I first got it when I was in Canada, and then I traveled a lot to Asia with it, and later I moved to Spain and Europe, where I am located at the moment. I take this journal everywhere with me. I take it to work, I take it when I travel, I take it to coffee shops. It's really become like a life partner. A little jump in time, this is future me. I just wanted to really emphasize that what's most important is finding a notebook that works for you. So focusing on paper quality, do you need to sketch or draw? What pens do you like to use? The size of your notebooks. Is it convenient for traveling or for your mobility? Do you want to take your notebook and sit somewhere in a coffee shop, or you don't mind having a bigger notebook to travel with? The accessibility as well of the paper refills of these notebooks. Are they easy and affordable for you to access? And also taking into consideration sustainability if you can. I think there's been a lot of emphasis on having certain brands, or even just an emphasis on having leather notebooks like these. It really doesn't matter. I mean, you can have a notebook just like this and put some tape on, customize it to your liking, or having a regular notebook that you just like the format and the paper. It really doesn't matter if you have charms or if you've personalized the notebook. What I mean is that you just need to have something that works for you and that you like. And the more you use it, the more it becomes personal to you. With stationery, I find that it doesn't really help to buy many things. Sometimes you just have to take what you have and use it and develop a system that works for you. I'm just repeating myself, but I do think it's important to emphasize this, that when we observe what other people are doing in the internet, we often get influenced, and that's not the point of this video. I'm just hoping to make this video so that you can see what my system looks like and take aspects of it that you like. One of the reasons why I do like these leather journals is from a sustainability standpoint. Like my pens, I like to have a refillable system. So I keep this leather cover. I've had it, like I said, for almost 9 years, or almost 10 years now. And I just refill and switch out these notebooks inside. It ages with you. It kind of has that wabi-sabi philosophy of like things get more beautiful and better with time. And that is one aspect of these refillable notebooks that I do like. I have conditioned the leather over the years, and I'll go into that a little bit, because what I've thought of doing for this video is to give you guys a tour of how I have it organized, as well as go through a refresh, because we're heading into the new year, and also because my notebooks inside are actually full and I need to switch them out. I'm just going to make a tiny bit more space here for the journal to open up. So the way that I have it organized is I have one of these traveler's plastic flaps where you just have like a flap here and you can insert whatever you'd like on the inside. So I have that in the front and I have it in the back. So the first thing you see is this drawing, beautiful drawing that my brother did of me. This is from his perspective, what I look like, and he wrote Pottery Girl by mixing French and English, actually. I just think it's a really funny drawing, and it's a way to carry my brother with me wherever I go and have a little touch of his humor. And then I have an Instax film photo here. I have my Instax camera right here. This is the Instax Mini Evo. It's what I use to print photos. You can take photos with it and then print them out, or you can get your phone to transfer the photos and then print them for you, which is usually what I do, and I love this camera. I've been thoroughly enjoying printing photos and saving them or gifting them to my friends as well when it's a special moment. So I have one of a photo I took of a ylang ylang plant that my dad has in his garden, and it's a very special plant to me. So I have that, and then I have two photos here, one of me and my mom, and then one of my mom when she was much younger. So I like to just have her with me here. And then in my journal, I have 3 notebooks. So we're going into the ecosystem here. I'm just gonna move this a tad to the side. So the way I have it organized is my first notebook, I wrote it here, is my bullet journal. It's really everything that has to do with admin tasks, calendars, lists of tasks, and a lot of like brain dumping things that I have to do or organizing things when my head feels like it's a big mess. So I have that in one notebook, and I'll be going through it in a second. Then I have here what I wrote, my clay journal. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a ceramicist, and the reason why I wanted to separate this from the admin is because sometimes things that have to do with my work don't always have to do with a lot of other admin life things. So this in here would have more sketches, glaze research. When I was taking classes, I would take notes in here. So everything that has to do with my profession basically is in this middle notebook, and we'll be going into that in a little bit as well. And then here, the last notebook is my diary if you want. So I'm not really gonna go through this too much, but I'll just give you a little peek. Oh, I do have some sketches in here actually. So these are some sketches that I did when I was at the beach. I brought my journal with me at the beach, and I was just sketching some people that were near me. And I think these are also some other sketches that I did, which was really fun. It's really fun to bring your notebook to the beach and sketch people and observe, because I guess when you're at the beach, you don't really want to be on technology. It's too bright anyway for you to see anything. This is where I just dump all of my thoughts as well when I need to clear my mind on things, or I'm having a hard day, or I just want to write down certain things that are going on in the world or in my life. It's not something that I do every single day, but when I need it, I have it here. And I wanted all of my personal, emotional diary to be obviously separate from my work and, life, bullet journal related things. And then lastly, at the very end here, I have, so the other side of the flap, and this is usually where I just store a lot of extra things. And I think maybe I should clear out some of it today. I have, this is a Instax photo that I printed of a film photo actually that I took of 3 of the mugs from my past collection, from the fall-winter 2025 collection. And the reason why I printed that is because the thank you cards that I had with every order that I shipped out, I had printed like this because I was trying to get them to look the same. I think we're pretty close. I just hope that everyone who got a card like this sort of got the Polaroid Instax, film photo feel. So that's one thing that I have in there. Then I have a photo of my partner and my dog that I took in Brittany on film as well. Oh, this is a thank you card that I got from a store in Denmark called Rasted. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, but I just really like the format of this. Actually, initially, I wanted my thank you cards to be the same format as this, but I haven't been able to find a printing shop that prints cards this size. These are 2 sketches that I did of my brother. So that same photo of me that drawing of me that he did. I did 2 of him. So if you want to know what my brother looks like, these are pretty realistic. And then I have some extra Thai baht because my family lives in Thailand, and so I like to just carry these in my journal because otherwise I'm going to forget bring them with me. And then lastly, I don't remember where I got this, but the brand Issey Miyake from the designer Issey Miyake is where I got my name from. And so I always like to collect little I guess, souvenirs from the brand. I don't even know what's in here, actually. Oh, I must have gotten this with a perfume sample or something. So yeah, that's everything that I have in the back of my journal here. And I'm going to set these aside for now because I'm going to be resetting my journal in a little bit. So how about I give you guys a little tour inside the notebooks to show you how I have these organized, what works for me, and also maybe what I'd like to change and improve on. Actually, just before that, I did want to mention that I have one of these Traveler's Journals pen holders at the very back here that is holding my favorite fountain pen. I am very, very specific about my pens. I don't like many pens. I like fountain pens in particular. At the time when I was in school, I went to the French system, and they really insisted on the fact that we learn to write with a fountain pen, and once you get used to a fountain pen, I feel like you can't go back. The reason why I like fountain pens is because, and to be honest, I think that's the most important factor, is they're rechargeable. So when you're done with your ink, you can recharge the ink in this tube here. You don't need to throw the pen away. It really hurts me when people throw pens away, but I guess you have no choice when you run out of ink. But I just find it so wasteful to throw out plastic. So as a more sustainable alternative, fountain pens are your friend. I have another fountain pen here actually that I also wanted to mention. So the one that I have here that I've been using a lot, this is the Pilot Prera, and every fountain pen brand has very different styles. If you haven't tried fountain pens before or are looking for one, I highly recommend that you go try them out at a store if you can, just because it's really important that they feel right in your hand, you know, for this to be a cherished item that you really love and want to use and write. I find that otherwise, if it's a pen that you don't like, it might be too heavy, it might be too small. This one just is the perfect size for my hand. I like to put the cap at the end here. I have pretty small hands and fingers, so I don't like my pens to be too heavy, especially at the back. The other thing that is important to know with fountain pens is the nibs will adapt to your hand and your handwriting. Everyone has different, pressure, angles at which you hold your pen. So it's really important that you find a nib that works for you and that you use it so that it will adapt to your hand. They are costly, and compared to a regular pen, but you keep this for years and years and years. I've had this for many, many years. This one I think I've had for like 8-9 years. This is the TWSBI Eco, I believe, in a clear design, and I have it filled up right now with a dark ink, so you can see this part is where the ink is. TWSBI is a Taiwanese brand. I really like their pens. Pilot is a Japanese brand. I also really recommend Pilot pens. Every Pilot pen that I've tried is great. This isn't supposed to be a pen review video, but I just thought I would mention these. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say for now. If you ever want me to elaborate more on them, you can let me know. For now, I'm gonna set them aside here. Okay, journals, notebooks. So all the notebooks that I have are the Traveler's notebooks. I usually buy them in bulk. I have 3 here that I've kept in storage. I like to use the blank paper ones. I'm, again, very particular about paper as well. I really like the Traveler's notebook papers. They don't bleed with ink, even with fountain pen ink. And I like my papers to be blank. I don't like there to be lines. I think it's because my handwriting is pretty small and I find the lines are just too wide and they kind of like force me to abide to, their lines. And I just like to be free, if you know what I mean. So I don't like dotted either. I want my pages to be blank so that I can write in every direction that I want. I can sketch, etc. And you'll notice that I also write in columns a lot. And I find that blank pages just work well for me. So, my bullet journal, I usually just write some kind of title here instead of leaving it blank. Also, just FYI, these Fuji Instax papers fit perfectly here if you ever wanted to insert Instax prints into your traveler's notebooks. The one thing about traveler's notebooks and the format of these journals, as you can tell, is it's quite tall compared to the width in comparison to other journals or other regular notebooks, such as the Midori MD notebook. As you can tell, is much wider. It takes a bit of getting used to because usually notebooks are quite wide, but I find this actually really convenient because you can get to the next line instead of having to write for a really long time. So I usually start off with a spread of the next months, depending, like I might do the next 12 months. Sometimes I'll do the next 6 months. It really depends. Here I decided to do the next 8 months, and I guess I started this in September. This bullet journal, I didn't actually end up using it as much as I do my previous ones, just because I ended up being so busy in the fall of last year that I kind of got a little messy in my journal and didn't really use my system as much. But I like to have sort of a yearly, monthly spread like this to write down the big events that are coming. Sometimes I write down my YouTube and Instagram follower account. I didn't end up filling this up last year in the end. So that's how I start my bullet journal. And then I always have a monthly spread. So I do this for every single month when we're about to get to the next month. So this is September. I write down the dates, and sometimes I also write down, as you can see a little bit here, although usually I write for the full month, I write the day of the week, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I have it like written in Spanish here. And then on the next page, I have all the tasks laid out for that month. Sometimes this can be shorter. Usually it gets pretty long. And tasks that I haven't finished from previous months, I usually move them to here. And I know that I have to get through all of these. We'll see if there's another, I guess here's another monthly spread for October. Then, like I said, it got a little messy last fall, so maybe this isn't the best example, but I did want to show you what I meant by I do columns a lot, and I do them even when I write. So this was me just trying to make sense of making a collection and dates for when to release a collection. Sometimes I write it down once, I write it down a second time, I write it down a third time, just because there's a thinking process here. So this is how I start out, but then I end up, with this page, this spread. Again, you can see some columns that are starting here as well. And I find that the Traveler's Journal format of being quite tall works really well for this. So what I have here is actually every day of the week, and I was trying to plan how many pieces I can make in a day. And the previous page was, just me trying to figure out weeks. So I would have week 2 from the 13th to the 19th of October. I would make these. And then week 3, week 4. So it keeps on going. I keep revising it. This is really like a thinking process journal. There's a bunch of sketches in here as well for laying out a design of an interior for a project that I was working on. Here again, this is a stamp design that I'm still working on. More of me trying to design a stamp idea for my brand. Here you can see the columns that I was talking about. I guess this is more like how I do my to-do lists, and I try to organize them to make sense in my head. Sometimes I also write down or break down my weeks like this to try to make sense of time. This was me planning lighting for my studio space. I'm still working on that, but sketching that was really helpful. This is me starting to work on the next coming collection, so I'm not going to share too much of that. And I think that gives you a pretty good look of what my bullet journal looks like. I do also sometimes do this, and for the next journal that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to lay this out better. This is for me to calculate the weeks that I have to a drop. So if I know that a collection would be like, say, around here, I'm counting the weeks and days that I have leading up to that. I will show you guys a previous bullet journal that I have. So this was the early of 2025. So I have my full year spread out here, as well as my events for the year. I did still write down YouTube and Instagram count, but I only really filled that up once. So I don't know if I'm going to keep doing that again. Next is a goals and bucket lists for the year. I think I will be doing that in the next notebook spread for 2026, just because it's just nice to have for keepsake. And then I have my month of January of last year. So here you can see again dates and day of the week and all of the tasks that I had to do. And I tend to write little squares or diamonds, I guess is what these are. And I like to fill them out when that task is done and scratch it out, just because it just feels extra satisfying. And I feel like from a visual standpoint, you can see what is left to do and what still needs to be done. I also wrote down, I guess, January tasks for the studio. So a lot of times my live tasks are kind of different from all the projects and tasks that I have to do in my business. So I wanted to separate that. Here I started doing tasks, but having my life tasks up here and then my studio tasks separately. And I think this is a pretty good format that I'm going to be reusing for 2026, just because I feel like it's nice to organize and separate them. Usually my life tasks are pretty urgent, so it's a good way to not have some of my tasks get lost and have them organized by levels of urgency. This was another project that I did in the studio that we didn't end up doing, but when I'm organizing the space, I like to sketch it out so I have a bit of an idea of what things are going to look like. Here we have the summer months. I don't remember why, but I decided to have June, July, and August all in one page so that I could see a lead up from here to here. So I did that, and then a huge list of tasks. I think this is also a pretty good idea when you know that these like weeks are all leading up to one project or to one deadline, to have them all laid out together. Oh, this was me planning the little farm veggie patch that we started gardening last year. And I think I'm also going to leave some space in my bullet journal for 2026 for farming, just because January is a good time to start sowing your seeds, and spring is usually a really big germination time for lots of plants. So it's always really exciting. Sometimes I also do reflections of like, how did I feel this month? Good things that happened, energy givers, energy drainers, and goals that I accomplished. So sometimes I like to do a bit of a review, usually every 6 months. So like either the summer holidays or the winter holidays is when I do a bit of reflection on things. So yeah, we're also starting to lose the light here. It is starting to get a little dark. So I might have to cut this video into 2 parts. So that's it for the bullet journal. Then when it comes to the clay journal, this is really a space that's a lot more free. Like I said, sometimes I take notes because I'm taking classes, which is the case here. I took a wild clay workshop and I was taking notes during the class. So I had my course notes written here. I did some illustrations too of certain things, and I loved going back to this. It was really nice to have it laid out like this. I think I went back to these notes like 2-3 times last year to remember certain things. So I will be keeping this journal because I think I refer to these a lot. I also did some research, I think, just like on certain clays and such. This was another class that I took with ceramic materials workshop on glazes and glaze development. And so this was more notes from the class on the chemistry and materials and ingredients. I'm not going to bore you too much with this, but it just shows you what a clay journal might look like. I have a bunch of sketches in here as well. These are certain glaze tests that I wrote down. And I also write down a lot of glaze analyses, some ideas for projects that I want to do. I do apologize if I do blur out some of these, just because some of these notes are pretty important to me in my work, but I do apologize, and I hope you understand why I might blur out some of it. I did do some sketches here. This was me writing some notes from last year after my first sale, and just some notes on what to do, what to keep in mind, and how to improve the next round, just because, especially with shipping and packaging, it can be really stressful and to have it all well organized. This is a shelf design that we're doing, or that I'm doing along with my partner in the studio, and we were trying to figure out how to build that. And that's pretty much it. So this notebook is full. I am going to be sliding it out and replacing it, along with this one here. Lastly, I have my diary here. I don't really need to go too much into this. This doesn't really have much structure. It's me just writing down word vomit, but I'll show you what a spread might end up looking like. Sometimes I do some storyboarding as well for video ideas, more storyboarding, and yeah, that's it. I think I'm going to stop the recording here for now, and I'm going to come back tomorrow when there's a bit more light, and I'm going to be resetting my journal for the year 2026. Good morning, everyone. We are the next day. I have my morning matcha latte with me. I know it doesn't look very latte-y. There isn't much foam. There's no latte art, but you do with what you have. And so in this part of the video, I would like to switch out a few things, give this notebook a refresh. I was also thinking of changing this elastic because I've had it for a really long time. It is getting a little old and used, and I have some new colorful ones here with me. And also giving this leather a bit of conditioning. I do this maybe once or twice every year just to keep the leather in good condition for it to not dry out too much. It doesn't feel too dry, but I think in some of the edges it could use a little bit of hydration. So I'm going to be doing that today. First things first, I'm going to take out the old notebooks and the elastics. And I'm also going to switch this out for now. I'm just going to take a look here at the condition of the inside of the notebook. As you can tell, it's definitely aged, but it's still like in perfect working condition. I'm going to take out the elastic here. There we go. Just going to slide it out. Now is the fun time where we get to decide what colors we're going to be going for. So I bought one of the Traveler's Notebook elastic refilling packs. I'm not exactly sure what color I'm going to go for. The blue is quite nice against the brown leather. I do like that. Yellow, I'm not as much of a fan at the moment. Green is pretty fun. We could do red as well. I think I'm going to pull the red one and the blue one out. Those are the two that I'm gravitating towards more today. So the red elastic, red is just so classic against brown. It does have a really nice energy, I would say. The blue one is also really nice. It's nice and calming. I think it has like a sereneness to it, and it kind of complements the brown really well. This is going to be hard to pick. Ooh. See, I thought I was going to go for red, but now I just wonder if I've seen too much red last year. Can we do both? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, I think that what can help with the decision making is I was thinking of inserting a piece of paper between the front and the back photos here, so it would look a little something like this, so that you don't see the back of the photos. And so when you would open the journal, it would open up to either a red page or green. I think I like the green, actually. It's kind of naturey. I think I'm going to go with that. So I'll just pop it in and see how this looks. Sure, okay. I'll just go with this green. It works for now. I think we're just going to try the blue elastic for today. And if I change my mind, I'll switch it out. just to give you guys an idea of the red, which I do also really like. Maybe it just clashes a little too much with the green. Before I slide in the elastic, I am going to slide this out one more time because I'd like to give the leather a bit of conditioning. So I have here this cream by the brand Saphir. They have a lot of like waxes and lotions for leather. I just happen to have this one on hand, so I'm going to be using this one. This is the Crème Universelle. It cleans, it nourishes, and it protects your leather. I also got one of these like very, I don't know what material this is, but very soft cloths to clean and apply leather conditioning with onto your leather. So I'm just going to go ahead and dab the tiniest bit on here. And then I'm just going to very gently start rubbing and massaging it into the leather. I'm going to pay close attention to the edges here of where the leather folds because that tends to get the driest, I find. I always find leather conditioning very meditative because it's sort of an act of care in a way. You have to be gentle and caring, and you're re-nourishing your items, giving them a bit of rejuvenation and life. And usually when I start, I end up grabbing all the belts I have and all the shoes I have in the house and giving them a nice refresh. Just gonna go in with the dry parts of the cloth and catch any extra that's sitting on the surface. And I think that's it. I mean, usually you would leave this overnight to really seep in and dry. It's deepened in color, the scratches are less prominent, and it just has a less drier feel. I'm gonna go ahead and pop in the elastic now. Let's see. I'm just gonna wrap it like this and then pull through just a tiny bit more. I think that's good. Then I'm gonna go ahead and tie the knot. I guess at this stage would be a great stage to slip through charms if you wanted to, or if I wanted to, but I don't happen to have any on me. I'm gonna go ahead and slide in some of the photos that I had already. So this one, the Ylang Ylang plants one, I think it'll look really nice against the green paper. And my brother's beautiful drawing portrait of me. They have a bit of sticky tack or ticky tack, I forget what you call this, but these little sticky things. Okay, I'm gonna leave it like that. For now, it's not the prettiest thing you've ever seen, but it'll work. And I'll slide in these. Next, I'm going to slide in my two new journals, so the bullet journal and my clay journal, as well as at the very end at the back, the diary that I'm still going through. It still has plenty of pages left. I think you take the first page and the last page of your first and last journal, you grab the elastic, pull that through, close them, and then you can separate the notebook elastic here that I'm going to slide through the middle of my middle notebook. There, we have 3 notebooks. Let's go ahead and test out the elastic. Lovely. The leather conditioner smells so nice and makes the leather feel so buttery, smooth, and nice. And there, I think that's the look for this year's journal. I am happy with the blue elastic, I think. And then you'd open up, it would be green. So now I'm gonna go ahead and write down what notebook is what. I could use my fountain pen for this, but because it's quite a thin nib, I think I'm gonna try out this pen. I don't usually buy pens like this. Like I said, I like the refillable kind, but this is a Japanese brush pen style that I wanted to test out. So let's try it out and see. January 26. And at the end, when I'm done with the book, I'll write down what month it was. I was thinking maybe of using some of these extra photos that I had printed for some scrapbooking. I think maybe this one. Let's try and see what it looks like with masking tape. I don't have any cute colorful tape. I just have this painter's masking tape with me, so I'm just going to be using that. I am actually reconsidering if I should do this one. Yeah, actually I want to switch those out. This was a floral arrangement that one of my friends did for a wedding using these ceramic coupes that I had made. This is back when I lived in Toronto. I had made some of these ceramic coupes, and she commissioned me to make, she's a florist, and she commissioned me to make several for her. Her account name on Instagram is Florette Dundas West, and she makes the most amazing sculptural arrangements for events and weddings. She's so talented. This is a really nice memory that I have of the work she did with one of my pieces. All right, moving on. The next journal will be the clay journal, and I was thinking maybe we could do maybe 2 photos here, something like this. I don't know if this looks very nice, the way that I taped it, I mean, but I'm just gonna go with it for now. I think sometimes you just have to follow your intuition. Clay journal. Lastly, last notebook is my diary journal. I was thinking actually for a change, I could use one of these printed cards that I got from a brand called Something to Hold. I received some pants and trousers that are really nice from them. And with the order came these thank you cards and a really lovely napkin. It is a sustainable brand, and they did mention that they've included napkins with their orders, also with sustainability in mind. And I believe it's embroidered here. I was thinking maybe we could do something a little different here. Let's see, maybe I could do, I think I'm gonna do somewhere around here. Lovely. Maybe I could actually do something on the back of this book. That could be fun. What have I got here? Some photos. I could use this one that my brother took of me. Yeah, I think I like the black and white. It's a photo that my brother took of me. I guess my brother is a big theme in this journal. But one that he took of me while I had my tiny pottery studio under a set of stairs. Some of you have been here since I posted that video. I think it was my very first video that I posted here on YouTube years ago. It is still up if you're interested in seeing what a tiny home pottery studio looks like. I could barely stand up because, like I said, it was under a set of stairs, but those were good times. Also hard times, because that was also a hard time in my life. But yeah, so it was extra special that my brother was there, and we have this photo in memory of those times. And then I think at the back here, I'm going to slide these tie bot in here again, as well as the drawings, portraits of my brother. And then I will keep these cards, or this card in here for now, just because it's a good memory. And then I'll probably also slide in all of the Instax photos that I have. I'm gonna use them for a scrapbooking project in the future. And just like that, we have our notebook refresh. I do maybe want to make use of this pin somewhere. Maybe I could pin it here so that I can hold some of these photos in. It's kind of cute. I still have to fill in my notebooks with the month of the year, the dates, etc., as you've seen me show throughout this video. But I think I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera just because this video might end up being really long and you kind of got the idea. If you guys would like a tour of how I've set up my journal for this year in the future, you can let me know. I hope this video was fun and interesting for you guys. This is a new type of video, but yeah, it's something that I really enjoy doing. Also, let me know if you have some ways of setting up your journal that you're really enjoying. I'm always really interested in how other people are organizing their journals. I'll give you one last tour silently, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day and a wonderful start to the year.